visionary, an entrepreneur, a business owner. You want to make money from your passion and create the freedom that you've dreamed of. But it's slow. The income is slow, the impact is slow, and the freedom is slow. And here's the kicker. You've actually never been busier. You're working longer than ever, burning through daylight, and your family have forgotten who you are. You're tired and frustrated and you can't even sleep well at night. The business just feels so heavy, and all you ever wanted to do was just make the money you want to make doing the things that you want to do. And that's where I come in. Hi, if we haven't met yet, my name is Dr. Storme, and I'm the host of the Business Acceleration Podcast, where we shift your business from heavy to light, time poor to time abundant, and from income lack to income growth. We're going to achieve it together with my 20 years experience as a psychologist, helping people just like you to break through their barriers. And we're going to throw in a little of the woo as well. So thank you so much for pushing play today. Let's begin. This is a quick message for all of my soul-centered entrepreneurs out there. If you have made a commitment to reaching a much bigger audience with your message this year, then I would love to help you do that. You're warmly invited to join me on my very first webinar of 2020. It's happening next Thursday, and it's all about how to build your email list from a place of total alignment. I will put the link for the webinar registration in the show notes, and I look forward to seeing you there. Bye. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Business Acceleration Podcast. If we haven't met yet, g'day, my name is Dr. Storme, and I am so abundantly pleased that you're here today because this is a very special episode that I have put together for all of the entrepreneurs out there who are thinking about throwing it all in, thinking about waving the white flag, thinking about tapping out. Do not do that until you have heard this. So today we're talking about what happens when people around you stop believing in your business. Now, this is something that is a very common experience for entrepreneurs. And you know, it's almost like a rite of passage. Some might even say it's a baptism of fire, depending at what stage of your business journey this happens for you. But I'll share with you a case study from last year. So it was a lady called Jackie that I was working with. Jackie was a librarian, and she had been a librarian for over 10 years. She was married, and, you know, her children had pretty much grown up and moved out, and she'd made a decision that because they'd done so, now it was her time to do something for her. So she enrolled in a coaching course, and she was really excited about it because she wanted to coach students about study skills. And anyway, so she'd been sort of doing some private study coaching sessions for students at the university, and they had been very supportive of her wanting to pursue this as a little side business. So anyway, she goes and she does the course, and all goes really well, and she gets her certificate and everything, and then she decides that she's going to stop work. So she does, and she resigns from her job. They have this big party for her, and she's all excited, and, you know, she comes home, and that weekend, it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful story. Her husband tells her not to go out into the garage, so she doesn't. And then one day he says to her, okay, I want you to come out into the garage. And he's put this great big bow over the garage door. And, you know, he gives her a pair of scissors and tells her she can cut it. And she's so excited. And when she opens up the door, he's completely gutted the garage. All the tools and everything have been moved out of there. He's gone and he's hung like weatherboards on the inside of the space to make it look really pretty, and he's painted them all white, and he's put a white bench in there with a brand new MacBook laptop. He's put a nice chair, and he's put a nice filing system for her, lots of plants, all of that sort of stuff, big ceiling fan, and lots of candles. And the place just looks amazing. She bursts into tears and she can't believe it. On the whiteboard, he's written her a message saying, "You've got this." And, you know, she's just so overwhelmed with joy that, you know, he's supported her like this. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful story, don't you think? But guess what? It didn't stay like this for very long. What ended up happening was she decided that she was going to get up at the same time every morning that she used to when she was working at the library. And instead of going to the library, she was going to her study or her office. And so that's what she did. And anyway, she ended up making the garage like pretty much self-contained. She put a little percolator in there for her coffee and, a little bar fridge for water and fruit and snacks and stuff like that. And so she was decked out. It sounds amazing. I had office envy when I heard about it, when I saw the pictures. It was just gorgeous. But anyway, so she'd go in there and she was doing all sorts of things and she wouldn't emerge for hours. And then hubby would start knocking on the door and saying, "Oh, you coming in for lunch?" But she didn't want to get off the computer because she was in the middle of something, and she'd say, "Yes, I'll be in soon." And she didn't come in soon. And then hubby was knocking on the door again and he's like, "Well, lunch is over, but come on, you've got to come and eat something." And she just became so obsessed with the work. And it would be dark before she came back into the main part of the house. And then when hubby wanted to spend time with her, she was just tired and, brain fatigue, I think, from, what it's like running your own business. And it's such a massive learning curve, all the learning you've got to do. It's exhausting. And so then she wasn't really present in her relationship, right? You can see where this is going. Anyway, so this goes on and on and on. And hubby is super supportive for weeks, turning into months actually. Her friends were really, really supportive as well. They came over and they oohed and ahed at, the converted garage, and they took photos and they posted them on Instagram, and everybody was really supportive. They all bought her special things for her study to make it like a really nice space. But what happened too was she started even spending time with her friends because she was so focused on getting the business built up. Anyway, it all kind of comes to a bit of a head, and they're meant to go out, her and her husband are meant to go out to a friend's birthday on the weekend. And anyway, my client ends up saying that she can't go because she's got to work. And then, her husband's really not happy about that and expresses his disappointment. My client says, "Oh, all right then." And she packs up everything in the office and she goes and she gets changed and she goes to the barbecue. And when she's at the barbecue, everybody's really happy to see her because it feels like such a long time since they have. And then they say to her, "How's your business going?" And straight away she feels like that pang in her heart of like, oh my gosh, it's not going. And she tells them, "Oh, it's going fine." But on the inside, she's panicking. And they say, "Oh, really? How many clients have you got?" And she hasn't signed up anybody. And she says, "Oh, well, it's just early days yet, And they say, "Oh, okay, no problem. Well, good luck with it." And then what happens is she comes away from that barbecue thinking that, maybe she's not good enough because she hasn't signed anybody up and she hasn't started making money from it. So now we've got like some seeds of doubt creeping in. And this is kind of where it all begins for her. A couple of weeks later, something similar, there's a work function on for her husband. She's expected to be there at the dinner. She goes, and then some of the people are there from the barbecue, of course, and so they're saying to her, "Hey, how's it going? Are you making money from the business yet?" And she's still not. And so she doesn't want to lie to them, so she just tries to change the subject. But on the inside, she's feeling now guilt, and she's starting to feel a little bit of embarrassment, and she's starting to feel a little bit of shame. All those things that we've all felt in our business at some point or another. And so these are becoming stronger for her. Anyway, so we go home and now hubby is starting to get grumpy with her because she's absent from him. He thought with her retiring and running her own business, working from home, he'd get more time with her, but it's actually working out to be a lot less because she's not putting boundaries around her working hours. She's obsessing about the business and she's really giving it, 200%, trying to get it off the ground because she doesn't want to feel bad anymore that it's not actually bringing in any money. Anyway, what ends up happening is this goes on for a little while, and then, do you know what? Hubby stops knocking on the door and asking her how she is and asking her if he can bring her anything or do anything for her. Her friends stop calling her. Her friends stop inviting her out to things. She's just like an island now. She's quite isolated. And when she does emerge from her cave and she wants to talk to people, it's always hard because she's always praying and praying and praying to the universe that nobody's going to ask her how the business is going. Okay. So I think, what is happening here is that she's having a very normal experience for an entrepreneur. And that is when you start a business by yourself, it all sounds very exciting in the beginning. There's a honeymoon phase, absolutely. You go and you secure your domain name for your website and you start, choosing brand colors and you order your business cards from Vista Print and you do all of that, and it's very exciting. And then there's kind of a bit of a lull because now it comes the hard part, and you have to learn how to do your website, and you have to learn how to do your books, and you have to learn how to market, and you have to learn how to do a Facebook Live, and you have to learn about an email list and all of this sort of stuff that she's never, ever, ever had to consider before, and that nobody ever sees that she's doing because it's all kind of behind the scenes work. She's working her butt off and she's not seeing anything for it, and she's starting to doubt in her own ability. And now the feedback that she's getting from her family and from her friends is feeding into that seed of self-doubt that she's been holding on to. And now that seed is growing. The feedback that she's getting is kind of like fertilizer for that seed of self-doubt. And with it growing, she's now starting to hesitate and procrastinate and not make decisions and put things off in her business, which is then becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? And now we're starting to see that she's really not getting any rewards and she's not getting any better. So I guess, first of all, part of my role was to share with her that she's not alone and that this is a very common experience for entrepreneurs to have. And second of all, when it comes to coaching, the statistics from 2018 are that only 20% of coaches are actually making any money. Now, think how many coaches there are. It's like everybody's a coach at the moment. And to think that there's such a small proportion of those people that are actually making any money, I think should give her some hope, because it tells her that, she's there. She's part of, in air quotes, the norm. And if she continues to work on her business and develop it in unique and interesting ways that speak to her ideal client, she can be one of the 20%. And she can absolutely make money, and she can wear that with a badge of honor. Okay. Something else to remember is that, a lot of the time people around you and around her were very well intentioned when, they say, well, maybe it's not working out, and hey, maybe you should just do this as a hobby, and why don't you just go back and do a regular 9 to 5 to bring some money in? Now, when an entrepreneur hears somebody that they care about tell them, why don't you just go back to your normal job, or why don't you just go and do another 9 to 5 job? That is like a dagger in the heart. That hurts. That really hurts, because the business that person is putting together is an extension of themselves. And so when they're told, hey, you should just stop doing that, and just, you've had a go at living your fantasy over there and it didn't work out. Now just go back to the supermarket and get your job there. That really, really hurts, and understandably so, But again, it's a normal part of an entrepreneur's journey for most of us anyway. But I want to help you out with it. So I have put together some questions for you. So if you find yourself in this position, or if you know a girlfriend or a colleague that's in this position, feel free to share this episode with them too, so that they can get all the good stuff from it. But I'm going to share with you some transformational questions now that hopefully can help create a bit of a shift for you should you find yourself in this position. So the first question is, number one, if you were able to live your life to the absolute fullest, what would that look like? Okay, so you can write that down. If you were able to live your life to the absolute fullest, what would that look like? And the second part of that question is, what changes could you start to make now? Okay, the second part of the question is, what changes could you start to make now? Prompt number 2, what could you work on today that would really put a big smile on your face? Okay, number 2, what could you work on today that would really put a big smile on your face? Number 3, Who could you be spending time with so that it feels really light and almost effortless to achieve a goal in your business? Who could you be spending time with so that it feels really light and almost effortless to achieve a business goal with? Okay, so just on that one there, when I was first learning how to be an entrepreneur, it was hit and miss. I didn't have, a coach at the time. I didn't even know coaching was a thing, really. I'd done a couple of courses to try and help me learn different things for my business, but by and large, I was doing it on my own. And it wasn't until I started engaging in, for me, it was online communities, like online groups on my social, for example, that had other entrepreneurs in it, that I started to feel less alone. And the advantage for me of being in some of those groups was that I was able to, number one, see I wasn't alone. Number two, I was able to look to the experience of people who were further along the path than I was. And so I was able to learn from them. But it also gave me opportunities to provide support to people who were just beginning their journey. And so it was a real opportunity for me to be able to give and receive help. And just by being in that community, it really almost overnight resulted in a massive up level in my business, because I was able to tap into all of this knowledge, like this wealth of knowledge, and it was just amazing. And from there, that was when I first started learning about coaching and coaches and what they do and stuff like that. And so it was from having that group experience that I then learned about the importance of myself having a coach. So then that's what I did. I went and I invested in a coach, and I had good stories and not so good stories with coaches, and that's just part of it. But it really did make a massive difference, even to my emotional well-being, just feeling connected, feeling understood, feeling like people get it, was such an imperative part of my journey, because people around me in real life didn't, because they hadn't been on that journey themselves. I think the other thing too is when you start a business and you're doing something that's really different, and it's not conventional to go and start your own business, is it? Like, it's not a mainstream sort of thing to do. Most people will go and work for somebody else. Most people have an employee mentality, an employee mindset. They're just going to go and work for somebody else and make somebody else's dreams come true. They don't think to step outside that box and start doing something for themselves. And so when those kinds of people see an entrepreneur, they panic and they think, it's not going to work out, it's not going to work out, you should stay working for somebody else where it's safe. Entrepreneurs aren't interested in safety. Entrepreneurs are risk takers, and entrepreneurs know that they have something really important that needs to be out there in the world, and so they're driven by that desire to get it out there every day in their work. So when they're around people who are the majority, who go and have the employee mindset and work for other people, they're not going to ever be understood by those people. Okay, so you can't expect those sorts of people to support you 100% on your journey, because they just don't get it, and they're never going to get it. You can only get that support from somebody who's been through it. Okay, and where are we up to? That was number 3. Number 4 is, what can you learn from being in this situation? Okay, what can you learn from being in this situation? And by this situation, I'm meaning feeling unsupported by real life people, partners, children, friends, stuff like that. What can you learn from this situation? And the follow-up question for that, if you want to take that a little bit further, those of you who do, you could follow it up with this: how can you apply or utilize this new information moving forward? Okay, so how can you apply or utilize this new information moving forward? So now I want to share with you the reason that I'm giving transformational questions at the end of the podcast is so that you can have a shift, all right? you're not going to get a shift if you're not doing the work. This is like free mini coaching sessions that you're getting here. Doing the work means writing out your answers to the prompts, and it means then going away and where there's opportunities to turn them into action steps, you turn them into an action step and you make that change. You change that behavior. You do what needs to be done. It's called doing the work. If you don't do the work, nothing's going to change for you. You can listen to all of the podcasts, read all of the books, do all of the courses and acquire all of this knowledge and conceptually understand it and not get a change in your business. You're not going to attract a client. You're not going to get more money. You're not going to develop new services. Nothing, because you're not implementing it. All right. It's a new year, guys. Let's start getting you on the right track to making this your most abundant year yet. And by abundant, we're not just talking about money, we're talking about an abundance of good feeling, an abundance of good energy, an abundance of happiness, of all the wonderful things that you want to have in your business, okay? And you've totally got this, and I'm here if you need any help, okay? For those of you who have registered for the webinar next Thursday on how to build your email list, the very first lesson is a foundational course, and I'm super excited to do it with you and to walk you through all of that. For those of you who haven't yet signed up, I'll put a link in the show notes. I would love to see you there. You're more than welcome to join us. And for everybody else, have an amazing day, and I will see you next time. These podcasts are published every Wednesday and Saturday. I just think there's too much happening on a Monday. It's like I get all those notifications of everybody's publishing their podcast episode on a Monday, and I don't get it. I like to be different, so I'm just doing Wednesdays and Saturdays. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for your reviews. Keep them coming. I love serving you so much. Have a beautiful day. Bye. Thank you so much for listening today. I really hope that you enjoyed it and got a lot of value from it. Help me help others by sharing this podcast. And if you feel called to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, remember to let me know so that I can send you a very special thank you gift. Now go and build your dream business, and I will see you next time. Bye.